Okay, there I'm live. Anyhow, to answer a question, yeah, I did bid on that Wisconsin skillet on the Goodwill site. They wanted like $22 to ship it from Illinois, for God's sake. So I forget exactly what I bid for it, but I think it ended up going about $10 more than what I had bid for it. I think I bid 30 or 35. Because yeah, like I said, the shipping was just insane on that. One item from Illinois shouldn't cost $20 or more to ship it. You settling in now? Anyhow, yeah, don't really have a topic for tonight. Was just gonna kind of chatter with you, show you a couple of things I got, and pose a question for identification here. Got a fair idea of what it is. I'm not quite sure about the lid now that I've actually answered the guy's question, but the lid, yeah, I'm not quite positive. I'll show you that in a little bit. I'll say hi to everybody first. Got Chris Alderson and Cynthia Wesley. Fuzzy's here. Chris McGee. R.T. Scott. Billy Lee. Nice to see you. Dan. Randy Duffy. Let's see here. Hog Wild. He's here. Let's see. I know there's more than them. Dan, I think I said. Honey Badger. I said hi to Chris Alderson already. Might have everybody said hi to so far, at least the folks that commented. Gary Henning, Tessa Reed, nice to see you. Jim, always a pleasure. Ronald Coward. Yeah, no big rush on sending them broken pans. As always, I've got too many things going on to get anything actually done. I do have a project I'm working on. I picked up a wood lathe, a 1930s Craftsman wood lathe. Got it for $35. Wasn't too bad a shape mechanically. Needed a lot of cleaning and repainting, but that's coming along nicely. I'll need to get chisels for it eventually, but need to get a couple of centers for it, and eventually I'd like to get a chuck and a drill chuck for the tailstock so I can drill holes and things on the lathe. But I'm working on that. Seasoned a couple of pans for a friend of mine. A friend of his gave them to him. They're Jim Beam pans. Fairly rough. They're Chinese made. They're not terribly bad, but they're, like I said, they're fairly rough. One of them is especially. But they must have been in the original box yet, and they got wet. There were still pieces of cardboard between them. It's a set of three, a 5, and an 8. Size wise, roughly, and got those all cleaned up and reseasoned, so they're doing pretty good. And got to get hold of him and tell him I'm done with them. A couple things to show you. Last week we were kind of talking about dual marked things, and I don't have the only dual marked ones I got are got a couple of Wagner Ware Nationals. That's a number 9. You may have seen that it's been in a couple of videos. That's got a faint number 9 ghost mark underneath the catalog number there. So that was a fairly early one made from the earlier style patterns before they put the catalog number on the back. They moved the size number to the top of the handle. It's got a hand scribed number 9 size number on it. Wagner started putting their catalog numbers on things in 1924. So that's probably roughly when that one was made, the first few years anyway, and they reworked some of the older ones. Did I get the Wisconsin pan? No, I got outbid on that. Like I said, the shipping on it was so high, they wanted, I think it was $20 or $22 to ship it from Illinois. And So I would have ended up paying that much more. So I couldn't really bid all that high. And I think I bid 30 or 35 and it went for 45, something like that. Went for about $10 more than what I bid for it anyway. There were a few bids on it. So, but anyway, I also got, this is a fairly recent acquisition. This is a number 8. Get down there on the number 8 Wagner Ware National. Got it cleaned up, haven't needs a little trip to the electrolysis, get a little rust off it. And that came with a lid. And this is an Asian lid. The Asian lids like this are really easy to spot. They've usually got that kind of a indentation underneath the handle, so you got a little more finger room to get in there, which is kind of handy. And they usually got on the back side, you know, you can just see it there. There's an A and a 0 or an A and an O. Usually got a couple little numbers or letters on the lump on the inside. The Asian lids are different. If you notice the rim there, there's no ridge like most cast iron lids have. That's because instead of having a lip on the bottom side of the lid, they had a lip on the skillet, and that sat down in the skillet. But it fits really nicely on that number 8 National Wagner Ware. So it's a nice lid for it. So they're pretty much, they're not a pair, but they fit together nice. Some of the Asian lids, it's easier to find smaller size lids, and if you need a lid for a number 5 or number 3 or something like that. They're fairly common, so you can find lids to fit smaller pans, but how they fit or what they fit is kind of dicey. Like I said, this one, that fits really nice. Only got one hand to work with, but that fits really nice on that number 8 National, so I'm tickled with that. 6 drops is here. Good to see you. Let me backtrack a little bit here into the comments, see if there's any comments or questions or anything else here we need to answer. Wonder why I still looking at the waiting page. Sometimes YouTube will do that with streams. It'll say stream starting in 5 minutes. So you sit there and you wait 5 minutes, and the stream will start, but it won't tell you. It won't start on your end. It'll say you're waiting for the mud brooker, and you sit there wondering what the hell was going on until you refresh the page, and then it'll start. Sometimes it'll start and take right off like it's supposed to, but every now and then it'll kind of screw you over like that. Yeah, the kitty's being nice tonight. I got a little scratching post for her, and has a whirly thing on top, and that was $20 well spent because she can wear herself out attacking that thing. She's a little bit calmer lately, burn off some of that excess energy. I still play with her with I got a fishing pole with a string and a piece of pipe insulation on the end. Flick that around and chase her around the room with that. But it's kind of nice that she can burn herself out without me having to sit here for an hour and a half trying to wear the cat down. Let's see. I think I'm more or less current with the comments. Explain to me what you got, please. Martin stove and range skillet lid, you guess. Fits your number 8 skillet too. Is it a lid or a skillet lid? I don't know. I haven't seen any. I haven't seen a whole lot of Martin stove and range stuff, but I haven't seen any Martin skillet lid for like a combo cooker type of thing. I got a real nice 1920-24 Wagner griddle. Yeah, the shipping was high. Yeah, it's weird. Like I said, I mean, I can $20. That's usually what it costs to ship things from. Something like that. That's normally what it costs to ship from Florida, the East Coast, the West Coast, all over the place. And here it is in Illinois, I mean, I could damn near drive down and get it for that much in gas money. She's talking about, yeah, she's behaving pretty good for the moment. I'm sure once she rests up for another 10, 20 minutes, she'll wake up and attack. Kind of like a shallow skillet and lid for a combo. Yeah, I haven't, like I said, I haven't seen one, but sounds like it'd be pretty cool. I like the Martin lids, just the regular lids too, because they got that really cool handle on them. One of these days I'll acquire one somewhere along the line. But other than that, speaking of lids, Chad sent me a Dutch oven. Let me get that opened up and ready to go here. Sent pictures of a Dutch oven and the lid that he has. Wasn't sure what it was. Thought it might be a Wagner. I think it's something else. I'll kind of keep my opinion to myself for the time being here and show you these pictures. Now that I've looked at it a little bit more, it's obvious that they're not a pair because the lid is hammered and the Dutch oven isn't. Let me get that brought up. But I thought they were both the same maker, but the lid might not be. Let me get the pictures going here. Here's a picture of the lid in the Dutch oven. You can see it's got a tab with a hole in it there. I think that's a hole in the tab. And it's got a hammered lid. Let me see here. Can I embiggen this a little bit? Get a little better view of the hammering on the lid. And you can see the style of the handle on it. And we go on to the next one. There's the bottom side of the tab. It's got a raised maker's mark on it. And you can see a little bit of the lid. And one more good picture. There you can see the inside of the lid. And you can see there's an 8 on the bottom of the Dutch oven. Now, you don't see the pictures. Wow, what the hell? I didn't open it up there. Well, let's see. We'll stop the screen and we'll represent it. There we go. Okay, there's the pictures of the, you can see there's an 8 on the bottom of the Dutch oven. And there's the inside of the lid. It's got a raised 8. And let me see here. Is this going to work now? There, it changed. See if I can enlarge that a little bit. You can see there's a raised W on the underside of the tab. Sharing the wrong screen. Yeah, it showed the folder I put them in instead of the actual pictures. And here is the top of it again. And there you see the hammering on the lid and the handle of the lid a little bit. Now, like I said, bottom is an old Lodge, single notch era. Here. Yeah, that's what I figured for the bottom for sure, that it was a Lodge, probably 20s, early 30s. But now that I look at the lid again, I'm not quite so sure. It's a little bit coarser hammering than you usually see on a Lodge, but the Dutch ovens were a bit different. And let me get to where you can see the bottom of it. That's kind of the Lodge pattern, but I don't remember if they had a raised 8 on it. I think that could be something different. And I've seen ones that were different that were similar, that weren't a Lodge. But the Lodge, I'm still pretty sure that they're both Lodge from the 20s, early 30s. The lid's also a Lodge. It made an off-size hammer pattern that was on a fryer or an oven, and the bottom was smooth. Mouth is getting dry all of a sudden. And so I was right. I figured it was a lodge, an fairly early lodge from the 20s, maybe into the 30s. So I guess Chad can rest assured that I was right about it. Figured I'd ask around just to make sure, because there was one other brand of lid that did have a had a pattern similar to Lodge, but it wasn't. But yeah, if they're actually a pair, that's even better. But yeah, I have the raised maker's mark under the tab. You can just kind of barely see it in this picture. That's definitely a Lodge type of thing. Zoom that in, you can just see it there. But I was pretty sure it was going to be a Lodge, especially with the raised maker's marks like that. Raised maker's marks like that. That's pretty typical Lodge thing. So hopefully Chad's watching. If not, I'll email him and say, yeah, everybody pretty much agrees that it's definitely a Lodge. William Hurt just showed up. Good to see you, William. Anyhow, that's a Snowman 8 too. Yeah, I was pretty sure that was it was a Lodge bottom for sure. Anyhow, let's see. We'll get rid of these. Stop screen. There we go. Tired again this time around. Didn't get really sleep today. Usually try and get a few hours of sleep. On Tuesdays when I got to work, I got to go to work after the show and work the night before. It's usually not quite so bad for some reason when I have the Tuesday off and I don't have to work that night. I can almost always sleep for a few hours then, but when I have to turn around and go back to work that night, like I do tonight, for some reason I usually don't sleep nearly as well. I kind of laid there and snoozed and dozed for 2 or 3 hours, so I'm not entirely without rest, but would have been nice to sleep for a while because I went to bed about 10 in the morning, so I should have been able to get 5 or 6 hours of sleep in, but I didn't. Sending you a Lodge skillet with a crack in the bottom. Doesn't look like it goes up the sides. Good, because I want to try working on a closed crack like that where it's just a crack that doesn't run out to the edge. I've got a number 5. What is that? I think it's a Volrath. But I got a number 5 with a crack like that. And I was hoping to get, 1 or 2 more like that to work on and get them figured out. Because, like I say, I'm pretty sure that when you try and weld it, it's going to make the crack want to run, even if you drill the ends of the cracks out. Because as you weld a crack in cast iron, it tends to open the crack up a little bit. And as it cools back down, the crack closes. But if you're forcing the crack open, if you try welding from one end to the other, or from the middle out to the either side, it's going to be tough to keep it from cracking all the way out to the edge. Of course, then you can just chase the crack out and weld it all the way to the edge. But if I can try and figure a way around that, would be kind of nice. I don't know if trying to weld from both ends in towards the middle would work, or if that's going to end up stressing things out worse. You going back to sleep. But like I said, I'll have to give that a try because that's kind of the next phase of my experimentations with welding cast iron. Got most of the cracks up the side figured out pretty good. Got one more that I'm going to practice on. Hopefully I'll be able to make a video sometime within the next 4 weeks, I'm guessing, because I'm off every other weekend, and weekends have been pretty well shot here. I mean, it's been raining steadily. I mean, just enough to keep things constantly wet and constantly screw any sort of plans that you have for doing things outside. But I finally caught up on a little bit of my outside work here the last time around. Try to do this without getting the cat too wound up. Howdy, Hubs. Good to see you. Yeah, she's been actually behaving for about the past hour or so. So I'm sure there's going to be a big wake up and explosion at some point. Do you think you could weld the spider that you posted on Facebook? Maybe. I'd give it a try. The older cast iron is a bit different than the newer, because over the years the alloy kind of changed. But yeah, I'd give it a shot just to see if I could do it. I can't guarantee that I'll succeed, but I can definitely give it a shot. And the hard part when you got two pieces like that is keeping things lined up, because it's going to want to twist and warp a bit too from the heat. Gets a kitty wet, it morphs into the frying pan goblin. Long story that involves a lot of pain. Yeah, there's a couple little shorts. There's sort of D&D shorts that have been floating around on YouTube now, coming up quite often. And goblin with a frying pan. But yeah, I'll take a shot at welding it and see what it does. See how it welds. It shouldn't be too bad. It did weld up that gate marked one that I got, that the handle had been brazed back on, and didn't weld too bad. It was a little bit touchy because it was pretty thin, but it shouldn't be nearly as bad as trying to weld the grate for Billy Lee, because that had been heated and burned, used as a grate in a firebox. It was so porous, it was like trying to weld styrofoam. If you touch a flame of styrofoam, you get a big melt away from the flame, but you don't get a whole lot of actual liquid. Do you have an opinion of the newer Lodge Blacklock versus a Newfield or Stargazer? Yeah, the Stargazers can be kind of tough to, they're kind of like the Smithies. They're polished a little bit too smooth, and they're tough to use. They're tough to get them to season good. If you use them a lot, they will season up, but they don't really seem to hold as good. The Blacklock has still got a little bit of texture to them, so they shouldn't be nearly as much of a problem. I haven't used one, but they should season a lot easier than the really smooth, really polished pans. Would I be able to use 45% vinegar for the water vinegar bath, as long as you add more water than I would with 5%? Yeah, you're going to want to get the vinegar down to like 2.5%, because that's what you're doing when you mix it up 50-50 with regular 5%. So I'm sure the math would come to me if I was a bit more awake, but you'll have to figure it out to get it cut down. Let's see, 45%. If you cut that 50-50, that would get you down to 22.5. Cut that down again 50-50, then you're down to 11.2. So yeah, you'll have to figure it out, but you're not going to need a whole lot of vinegar at any rate to your water with 45%. Yeah, you'll send it to me. I try it and then give it away. Yeah, cool. I mean, it's a nice pan. It'd be nice to be able to to be able to salvage it and make it useful again. Of all your modern, the Lancaster and Field have held the seasoning best. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I know Fields are machined inside, but they're not. I don't think they're that real super smooth. There are Fields machined inside. I'm trying to remember now. Anyway, yeah, the super smooth, super polished, is really a pain to try and get them to season. You can etch them a little bit. I mean, you can strip it down, strip your seasoning off, and then put in a 50-50 vinegar and water solution for an hour or two, and it'll etch the surface. It won't be the real polished mirror smooth anymore, but it'll be able to take a seasoning a lot better than if you got one that just won't season. Whether it's something new like the Smithies, or if you come across a pan that's been wire wheeled real heavily, that tends to burnish the surface. And burnishing is more or less it doesn't so much grind the metal off as it just kind of smears it around and makes it real smooth. And that makes it tough. It makes it tough to season because there just isn't anything there for it to grab onto. Chris McGee is taking over, moving over to the All-Star game. Well, see you next time. You can see the rest of it on the replay. But yeah, like I said, I've seen videos on YouTube where people take a new lodge skillet and sand it and polish it and sand it and sand it and polish it until it's just a mirror finish. And they don't make nearly as annoying of a scraping sound when you're cooking with them. But yeah, you don't need to put a mirror finish on it. You can smooth them up. Just take 50 grit sandpaper on an orbital sander. In a couple of minutes, it'll knock down the high spots enough that it's pretty smooth, but it's not so smooth that it isn't going to season. You don't really need to, because they're not going to stick. They're not going to cause you any problems with cooking. But if you prefer a smoother finish on your new lodge, you can do that. And I don't recommend sanding a vintage pan because usually there's no need to begin with. If it's got some rust pitting, you're not going to be able to sand out the pits anyway without getting the pan ridiculously thin in a few spots, and that can cause problems. There are a couple. I mean, I did a video where I sanded down that big number 14 BSR that I have, and with that, the big pits didn't cause a problem. It was a real super fine pitting. It seasoned up good, but it just would not. It would stick no matter what I did with it. And I tried and tried and tried with it. Finally, had to season or strip it down again, and just hit it with some coarse sandpaper, just enough to kind of break up that real fine pitting, because it's kind of like Velcro, is what the effect was like. And that finally got it to where it would season up nice and finally cook good with it. I thought it was because of the flaxseed oil used to season your field skillet. Yeah, the flax oil, it does tend to flake sometimes, especially on a really smooth pan. But yeah, a little vinegar, soak it in vinegar for an hour or so, usually it'll etch it and rough it up just enough that it'll take seasoning again. Yeah, and the flaxseed it's overrated as a seasoning. The official process for it is you're supposed to strip your pan down, you put on a real super thin coat, and you build up like a dozen coats. And the problem is, if you ever get one that's a little bit too thick, the coats after that aren't going to stick right. And even if they do stick, eventually the stuff is going to wear off, because what you're doing with the flaxseed oil is you're really varnishing the inside of your pan, because flaxseed oil is just food grade linseed oil, and linseed oil has been used for paints and varnishes for centuries. And you're trying to varnish and a smooth metal surface, and it just doesn't work real good. I mean, you can get it to stick, and it does make a real nice, hard, smooth finish. Stuff doesn't stick to it, but eventually you're going to scratch it. And once you scratch it, it'll get moisture underneath there. The moisture, when you're cooking, will turn to steam, and it'll start to lift the coats of varnish off. The flaxseed oil does work pretty good if you have something with a lot more texture to it, like a newer Lodge. A couple of thin layers of flaxseed oil will help to fill it in a little bit and smooth it up. But yeah, I'm not really impressed with the flax oil. You notice those on clickbait sanding cast iron demo videos. The host will generally give those pans away to viewers. Yeah, I mean, you get them too polished, there's just nothing you can do to make the seasoning stick to it. Oh, there's Chad. Thanks for showing your Dutch oven. Hard to identify with the W. Threw you off. Yeah, the W is a maker's mark. The consensus is, yeah, that's a 20s, early 30s Lodge. Both the lid and the bottom are definitely a Lodge. But in those days at the Lodge factory, the workers were paid piecework. You got paid so many cents for every pan that you made. And the molder, the guy who actually put the mold together and poured the pans, would put his initial on every one that he made. So you see W's, E's. There's several known initials. And also the molder, I can't remember exactly what it was. It's in that book that somebody gave me, a Lodge history book. And I think they paid the head molder 35 cents a piece for each pan that he poured. But out of that, there were two guys working under him that would shake the pans out of the mold sand. And out of that 35 cents, they each got 10 cents a piece. So he would get like 15 cents, and the other guys would get 10 cents for each one that he had. His helpers would get paid out of his check, basically. And the reason why they're a raised letter instead of one that's, cut into the, is like most lettering is sunken into the surface. It's because they would stamp the sand mold after the patterns had been pulled out, and they had a letter stamp. It would make a indentation in the mold, which would come out as a raised letter on the finished product. There was someone polishing Lodge skillets and selling them for $100. They were so smooth, even the seasoning doesn't stick. Yeah, that's, like I said, that's a problem with them. Either something that's been sanded too smooth, or somebody cleaned it up with a wire wheel and really buffed the hell out of it. You see those now and then. So yeah, what you got there is a nice late 20s, early 30s Lodge Dutch oven. And yeah, it is a matched set. They made a hammered lid and a smooth bottom. You're dazed by the heat, waiting for the show, and then doom scrolled until I realized. Yeah, I've done that on, waiting for something to start and get distracted by everything else. You're still looking for the HB initial skillet and your initial HA skillet. Yeah, I mean, I'm not with the initial skillets. I'm not sure how many different combinations there are. I think it's better than a dozen of them, and can't remember offhand which two I've got, but yeah, there's several different combinations. And the initial skillets, like I said, the ones I've seen, they seem to all be number nines, and you can see on the back side of the handle where there used to be a rib on it that's been kind of ground down. Must have given the kitty sleeping pills. Yeah, she's actually been suspiciously calm here for the last almost an hour now. But she was running amok earlier in the day. Like I said, I got her a scratching post with a twirly thing on top that she spends many minutes and hours every day viciously attacking. Kind of surprised it's held up this good so far. It's got two little poofy things, a little feather thing with a tassel underneath it, and the feathers seem to be holding up surprisingly good so far. It's lasted her a week, and it doesn't seem to be any worse for the wear. Guy posted one the other day he found, so I asked him to remember me if he sells it. Yeah, hog wild, if you get a chance, if you know what all letter combinations there are for initial skillets, if you could put that on the Facebook page. I know I saw one a long time ago, and it seems like there's better than a dozen different known ones. Looks like the kitty loves you. Yeah, she loves me until she decides she hates me and starts chewing on my hands and clawing away. Yeah, Mrs. Mud Duck, nice to see you. Yeah, you'll try to find the list. Like I said, I've seen them before, but it's been a long time, and they're kind of an interesting little sideline on collection, trying to get all the different initials. Some people do that with Wagner too. There's different pattern letters that they would stamp, usually under the handle, sometimes on the back. And there's will the kitty make an entire show on my arm? I'll have to wait and see. We're 37 minutes in, and she still seems to be pretty calm. Usually she'll sleep for a while and wake up and sink her teeth into my hand just because she can. Mouth has just been dry as hell this entire show. But yeah, there's all kinds of different little rabbit holes you can fall down into. Trying to collect a series of something. All of the different sizes. The obvious ones. Trying to get a complete series of some particular logo. The problem is you always seem to run into one or two of the series that are rare and expensive and impossible to find. But some of them don't get quite as much attention, like the initial skillets. They're all pretty much around 60 to 90, kind of depending. Usually I see them around 50 to 70 bucks, but sometimes they go higher. I suppose somebody's looking for one particular set of initials on them, but they're all pretty much the same price. But if you want to put together a complete series of large logo Griswolds, you're going to run into the number twos and number fours, which usually go fairly high. Most of the rest of them aren't too hard unless you want to get the ones with the heat rings. And I guess the number fives with the heat rings are pretty scarce. It seems like there's one or two other ones that are kind of uncommon. At least you're going to pay a bit more for. Having the hardest time finding a 1920 through 24 Wagner number 5. Never thought a number 5 would be so hard to find. Yeah, with the smooth bottom Wagners, from later on, from after they got rid of the heat ring in the early 30s, except for the 3s and 5s, all the rest of the odd numbered ones, smooth bottomed ones, are a lot harder to find than the even numbers. The sevens, 9s, 11s, 13s go for big money when you find them. But yeah, the odd numbered ones are a bit tougher to find. At the end of the show, I might eat the cat over my shoulder and see which cabinet the kitty clings to. If you don't guess right, you go double or nothing next week. That's not too bad of an idea. Of course, she wakes up, she'll probably start tear-assing around the room anyway and be clinging on every other cabinet just for the fun of it. Yeah, go to the corner 6. But yeah, the smooth bottom Wagner odd numbered ones are tougher to find. The 3s and 5s are easy, but all the rest of them are hard to find. And yeah, now that you mention it, I don't think I've really seen a lot of the number 5 stylized logos from without the catalog number either. I never really paid that much attention to them. But I guess as more people, start looking around for things, you start realizing, some things are less common than you really thought. And it's not like, like coin collecting or collecting sports cards where you have there's usually a, rough idea of what the population should be. I mean, they know how many of them that were printed. They never kept track of the numbers, especially of specific sizes of things, because early on they usually sold the pans and such by the pretty much by the ton, by the hundredweight. You get a barrel of they'd ship them in barrels. You get a barrel of skillets, number 8 skillets, and it'd be so much per 100 pounds. And they weren't charging you so much for a per item price, so they never bothered to really keep track of how many individual items they made. Just so many tons of iron per day. They might have made 12 tons of number 5s that month, and even then they didn't really keep track of it. So it's hard to say how many of any particular thing were made to begin with. But you'd think a number 5 would be fairly common, because that's a common size and it was a popular size. So I guess it's just kind of the luck of the draw, really. You collect Francoma dishes for Oklahoma and cast iron. You got a lot of your grandma's cast iron. Cool. It's always nice to have heirloom cast iron. And the nice thing with cast iron is, you can pass it on to your grandkids, and it's even older then by the time they get a hold of it. The police are chasing down Cynthia again. I tell you, if she'd quit stealing stuff from the neighbor's yard, you wouldn't have this problem. I've heard besides collecting cast iron, she likes to steal garden gnomes out of the neighbors' yards. Yeah, strange how the uh, marked Wagner odd numbers aren't out there, but the unmarked ones are everywhere. Yeah, I've got a couple of number 7 unmarked Wagner, but yeah, I've never seen a marked Wagner with the stylized logo. I've never seen a smooth bottomed number 7. Now that you pointed out a couple months ago that they're rare. Yeah, I haven't seen any, but I do have the unmarked ones. Yeah, I don't know why, but that's just the way they made them, I guess. Love those old Francoma coffee mugs. Probably around here somewhere. I've got 1 or 2 Francoma things. I know I got a couple of McCoy odds and ends. See a lot of the 1055s with the heat rings, but not a stinking 5. Yeah, you can't find the smooth ones, huh? Or the early ones with the size number on the back. It would be the 20 through 24 ones. You're stuck on what looks like to be a skillet lid, Martin Stove and Range hamburger logo. Can you help? Yeah, send some pictures. Put them up on the Facebook page or email them. And we can show them around next week and see if anybody disagrees with it. But I just cleaned up a number 3 with a raised Y near the handle on bottom. Any speculation? It's probably a lodge. Usually, and you see a lot of lodge, early lodge ones with a raised Y. That was one of the maker's marks that you see on quite a few lodge. So more likely it's an older lodge. Handle looks like a Wagner. No Facebook or anything. You're so green. Well, if you can take pictures with your phone, you should be able to email them to me, if nothing else, at the mudbrooker at yahoo.com. I'll post it here quick just so you can see. I'm forever turning my keyboard on and off because the cat just loves to jump on the keyboard and stomp random stuff. Whoops. Make sure I spelled my own name right. Posted it up so I can try to email it. Well, if you got it on the Facebook, that's probably good enough. Notice you never see an unmarked number 4. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen an unmarked number 4 either. Is a smooth bottom number 3 Wagner uncommon? No, they're real common. And if I remember right, the number 3s never did have a heat ring on them. So you'll see the ones from the late 19 teens up until 1924, where they have the number 3 on the back, and those don't have a heat ring on them either. But yeah, the smooth bottom number 3s are pretty common. Most of the smooth bottom number 5s are common, except apparently for the ones that have the 5 on the back of the pan. Sure covered years before, but I found the channel. But what is Mudbrook? It's because I live in Mudbrook. It's the area where I live out here in the weeds. And the locals call it Mudbrook. And the residents of the area are Mudbrookers, and I am the Mudbrooker. Thanks for my videos. I learned a lot from them. Well, yeah, that's what we do here. I've learned quite a bit doing the show, because I mostly know the most about things that I have, and things that I don't. I'm constantly learning all kinds of new things, like the number 5 early stylized logo Wagners are scarce. I didn't know that, but apparently people aren't able to find them. You want to trade your unmarked stuff, unmarked Wagners, 4, 5, and 6. Hint, hint. Send those pictures too. Yeah, if anybody wants to go ahead and trade with you, they're more than welcome to. You're going to purr a little bit now too, huh? For a cat, she doesn't purr very much. Wait to see a Mudbrooker authorized pan with my face on the bottom. Maybe someday. The 105.7s you seen are nickel plated. Huh. Yeah, I don't think I've seen any number 7. Any smooth bottom number 7s that were marked. But yeah, now that you mentioned it, I have been kind of keeping an eye out for number 7 marked Wagners, the smooth bottom ones anyway. Change arms of the cat. There. Get my mouse over here. I suppose now that I disturbed you. Yeah, you love the Wagners. Yeah, I got quite a few Wagners. They seem to be a bit more common around here, and and I like the Wagners. The Griswolds are good too. I mean, they're a real nice pan. And luckily Wagners are a little bit cheaper overall than most of the Griswolds, and they're damn good pans too. Thanks for another good show tonight. Well, I try. Sometimes just these kind of chatting and rambling shows do well. Sometimes they do surprisingly well, being sleep deprived. Not quite as fast thinking or fast talking as I normally am, but I wonder if anybody has information on Hubley stuff. I don't. I've never heard of it, so catalogs, etc. Well, if somebody does, go ahead and mention it. Smash the like button. Yeah, because we are getting up to the last few minutes of the show. You like it because they're nice and light, and when they hang upside down, the W looks like an M. Yeah, they are. They're fairly light. I mean, there are some that are a bit lighter, but they're not hugely heavier than anything else. I think the only reason Griswold's more expensive is the logo is prettier. Yeah, they did make a hell of a good logo. Especially the large logo because it fills the bottom of the pan nicely without being too overcrowded. With this heat, you're fast enough. It's actually fairly decent today. I mean, it was hot and humid all weekend. With passing thunderstorms just to keep things nice and wet and muggy. But finally kind of broke a little bit today. Time flies and you're having fun. Yeah, we do. Banks, statues, toys, doorstops. Yeah, if I ever come across anything, well, be sure and mention it. But I haven't seen them. I can manage if it was in the 80s. Yeah, 90s to 100 in Harrisburg, PA. I was right around 90, a little over, but it was humid as hell all weekend. So it's been worse other places, been worse around here, but it's plenty bad enough. Griswolds don't warp as often as Wagners. Yeah, a lot of the Wagners, especially from the 50s on, are known to have a little bit of wobble and spin to them. Your cucumbers are growing like nuts. Pickles soon. Yeah, my blackberries are starting to come ripe. Not as big or not as sweet as they were last year. I mean, they tend to do better when it's a bit drier. It's been pretty wet all year, but they should get a few out of them anyway, as long as I can beat the birds to them. Do I know how many pieces I have? Uh, I've gotten rid of some lately, but over 200. I think it was last time I counted was around 250, but I've gotten rid of some in the meantime. And I've gotten some more in the meantime too, so probably still around 250. Are you gonna wander off now? Okay. Good. I got a sweaty spot where my cat was laying. Muscadines next month. Yeah, those I don't have any around here, but a lot of people really like them. Anyhow, I think I'll wrap it up now and call it a day. Hopefully, before too long, I'll be able to get some more welding done once I get done playing around with my wood lathe. And gonna try and do some cooking here for too long too. A couple things I want to do. I want to fire up that high based crescent waffle iron I got. Maybe make some waffles with that. See how it goes. I think all your Wagners are flat too. Luckily, you always cook low and slow. Yeah, I mean heating them up too fast is a good way to get a little bit of warp to them. Like I said, I don't really mind a little bit of spin to them, a little bit of wobble, because usually you can talk the price down a little bit on them if they got a little spin to them. Anyhow, I will see you guys next week. Hopefully, I'll be a little better rested and a little more coherent, but that's half the fun. You have a Griswold stove damper. What might you value that at? They're kind of neat, but they're not hugely valuable. I usually see them selling for anywhere from 10 to $20. Sometimes they'll try and get you a lot more for them, just because it says Griswold on it. But yeah, I wouldn't pay more than $20 for one, because I can usually, like I said, you can usually get them for 10, 15, $20 around there. You just got a short base. All right. Anyhow, like I said, we'll wrap this up for tonight, and we'll see you guys next week. And hopefully you enjoy the rest of your week. Try not to perish in the heat, and I'll see you guys next time.